Hello, everybody. My name is Aleksandar Đenić. Also, I'm Executive Secretary of the New Communist Party of Yugoslavia, and I'm first member of local parliament in Belgrade territory after the counter-revolution in Zemun municipality, third biggest municipality in the Belgrade. 200,000 people live there. Also, I'm active in the World Anti-Imperialist platform, and also I'm a PhD student, and my topic generally is connections between ideology and rehabilitation, fascist collaborationist in Serbia. If we discussed about historical revisionism in Serbia, it's not separate topics from another former socialist country and Eastern European countries. After the counter-revolutionary process, when counter-revolutionary forces won in Eastern Europe, all this country started with process of integration to EU. But before this process, you know that after the Great October Socialist Revolution, imperialist state led in a lot of fronts campaign against the first socialist country in the Soviet Union, and also they led the front in the academia. And in this sense, a lot of, after the Second World War, they wanted to represent that, they use in their propaganda that socialist countries also are totalitarian countries. And they started to use totalitarianism as an ideology. One of the first who did it was Hannah Arendt, for example. She equalized the Soviet Union under the Stalin with Nazi ideology. And what is funny in her books, she said that in one very small reference, I don't have a lot of data from the Soviet Union, but I created one theory about totalitarianism if I don't have data about it. And also other guys like Raymond Aron also was very famous liberal anti-Marxist theorist, and also like Claude Lefort, he go further than Hannah Arendt because he claimed that every socialist country are totalitarian country like Nazist countries and fascist countries. But one of the famous so-called theoretical frameworks are about totalitarianism came from Karl Friedrich and Zbigniew Brzezinski. We know that who was Zbigniew Brzezinski, but it's so very popular thesis, and they used during the Cold War, they use totalitarianism like they use it in propaganda against the socialist countries and against the communist movement. It's interesting that one historian, he is a liberal leftist, Enzo Traverso, he said, okay guys, we can't equalize Nazism and communism, for example, because he said that German anti-Semitism predicted Russian Revolution during the 20th century because specifically a German version of the imperialist idea of contentional expansion. And he believes that racism won't inherit to Western political culture particularly in England and France, while the Soviet Union exhibited a strong anti-racist, anti-colonial, and international character. And we can see that we can't equalize it. Also, after the collapse of the Soviet Union and other Eastern European countries, they want to say that some, how can I say, another anti-West and Muslim countries also are totalitarians. And how can you equalize Leninism with some kind of this regime? And you can see that in the theoretical sense, it's so-called theoretical sense, it's only tools for the propaganda, because nobody wants to speak about Saudi Arabia or something like this, that they are totalitarian countries, authoritarian countries, but they want to equalize that every country who is against imperialism, that they have a totalitarian regime. But if you want to understand it, a discussion of totalitarianism cannot be understood without grasping its connections to ideology and law. It's very important one theorist from the Soviet Union, Petar Stučka, for example. He wrote the first Soviet constitution. And he said that socialist law differs from bourgeoisie law primarily in that it focuses on the relationship between the people. That is, the central question of the law is the relationship of man to man. In the bourgeoisie society, on the other hand, the dead norm dominates man, meaning that man exists for the sake of law rather than law existing for the sake of man. According to Stučka, a law in every social system defends the interest of the ruling class, and from his perspectives, the state functions as an apparatus of enforcing the legal system and ideology of the ruling class. His thesis is that no other system exists because the purpose of the legal system is the keep of the masses oppressed in submission. He stressed that regardless of how one views the role of the state and law, there is an inseparable connection between these two phenomena. The fundamental function of the state is not enact laws, protect them, or repair them, always with the goal of preserving power. And if we understand this ideological backgrounds and connection between ideology and law, we can understand a resolution in the EU Parliament and the Council of Europe on totalitarianism. But all of this resolution has a goal that dismantling the former socialist states in every sense. And if you read this resolution, you can see, for example, the resolution on measures to dismantle the heritage of the former communist totalitarian systems emphasize that the fundamental goal of transition process is to create a pluralistic democracy based on the rule of law and respect for the human rights. This includes freedom of choice, economic pluralism, protection of private property, media freedom, development of civil society, as well as decentralization, demilitarization, demonopolization, and debureaucratization on the former socialist regimes. The resolution also highlights the need to rehabilitate individuals who were victims of communist crimes, as well as the restitution of property to churches and individuals who were harmed by nationalization, confiscation, or other forms of expropriation by the communist state. Additionally, it underscores the importance of adopting lustration laws, emphasizing that this process must conform to democratic standards. This means individual accountability must be ensured rather than collective blame, along with presumption of innocence and the right to appeal. The goal of illustration is not to punish people, that is the task of the judiciary, but to protect the newly established democracy. And every another resolution go further, for example, and the resolution and the next resolution who speak about need for international condemnation of crimes of totalitarian communist regimes was adopted. That the defining characteristic of this system was the mass violation of human rights, including collective and individual executions, concentration camps, deportation, torture, forced labor, ethnic and religious persecution, and other forms of violence. The authors of these revolutions, while techniques and form of repressions varied from the country to country, all this regime shared the absence of political pluralism, while violence against the freedom of conscience through the expression and press freedom. The resolution expressed concern that communist leaders and perpetrators of crimes were not prosecuted after the fall of the regimes, unlike Nazi criminals. And all the other resolution also equalized in every another resolution, like European Day of Remembrance for victims of the totalitarian and authoritarian regimes, with remember of agreement between Ribbentrop and Molotov. And for example, Professor Patelis mentioned it, that it was the 21st agreement between one European country with Nazis government. You can see how they want to manipulate with this historical effect. And also, this resolution wants to equalize the Stalinism, communism, and Nazism. And also, the lot of other resolution European Parliament brought, and in this context, after the 2000, every government in Serbia led pro-EU policy, because the national orientation in our country that we want to become a member of EU. And it's so funny because, you know, for the context in our countries, because thanks to the civil war, some liberals who speaks about real European value, they couldn't believe that thanks to EU, we started with process of rehabilitation of Nazi collaborationists in our country and fascist collaborationists. And also, on the other hand, nationalists who are against EU, they also couldn't accept the historical truth that thanks to EU, our government rehabilitated a lot of Nazi collaborationists from the Second World War. But also one of the last resolution about equalized Nazism and communism brought in the 17th January 2024 European Parliament resolution. And it's so funny that in this resolution they further go there, because they want to say that, okay, they brought this resolution because they fight against the historical revisionism created by Russian state in Ukraine, for example. And also they said they equalized communism and Nazism with colonialism. And you can find in this resolution, and you can see how they manipulate with it, because who fought against the fascism, who fought against the colonialism, and who created fascism and who created colonialism. And a new generation who grow up in these historical circumstances, they think when they learn the history in the schools, etc., that Nazis and communists were together against the freedom world, and that communists, Nazis, and colonialists were together also against the freedom world. And you can see how they manipulate with it. Also, in many EU countries, as a part of the process of decommunization, they ban a lot of communist symbols. For example, Estonia passed a law in 2006 prohibited the political motivated display of the Soviet and Nazi symbols in public place. Also, the Estonian parliament adopted this document in January 2007, and the law bans use the flags, coats of arms, the slogans of the USSR, Communist Party of the Soviet Union, the Nazi Party of Germany, and SS units. Also in another Baltic country, Lithuania, banned the use of the Soviet and Nazi symbols in 2008. Also in 2015, Lithuania also prohibited organization of gatherings featuring Soviet and Nazi iconography. In June 2013, the Latvian parliament passed a law banning the display of the Soviet and Nazi symbols at all public events. Also in Poland, the use of communist and other totalitarian symbols was banned in 2009, except of the artistic, education, collector, and academic purposes. In 2011, the Constitutional Court declared this ban unconstitutional due to the violation of the freedom of expression, but nonetheless, in 2017, Poland adopted the decommunization law, which also included the removal of the Soviet propaganda monuments. One of the first countries who did it was Romania. They brought a national security law, was passed in 1991, before the adopting of the aforementioned resolution on totalitarianism. Romania was avant-garde in this point. And also in Bulgaria, lawmakers adopted a law in 2016 banning the public use of communist symbols. And if you recognize this context, we can't to say that the situation in Serbia is separate than another European former socialist country in Europe. And in Serbia, the law of legal rehabilitation was brought in the process of accession of policy to EU. And you can see that in every resolution from the European Parliament for the 2014 until 2016 spoke that Serbia need to rehabilitated Nazi collaborationists and fascist collaborationists, and if Serbia wants to become a member of EU, it was a duty of the Serbian government. Also, the law of rehabilitation in Serbia is so contradictory. If we speak about level of bourgeoisie law, it's in the civil law, it's very, very contradictory. This law adopted in Serbia in 2006 and amended in 2011. And also, it's thanks to this law, in implementing the law of rehabilitation in Serbia, more than 3,000 people were rehabilitated. Some of them even were member of Ustasha, movement, Croatian fascists, even them, they rehabilitated. Even, I think, more than 100 person who, 300 members of SS division of Prince Eugen, they rehabilitated. And also they rehabilitated a lot of members of and leaders of the Chetnik movement. Jelena spoke about it yesterday, but they rehabilitated their leader Dragoljub Mihailović and lot of another leaders of the Chetnik movements, and also they rehabilitated some members of the Handjar division. Handjar division was created by Bosniak, Slavic Muslim who lived in Serbia and Bosnia. And also they rehabilitated some of the part of the Quisling government militia and something like this. And the general narrative in Serbia, I want to say that it wasn't war between fascist and anti-fascist. It was civil war between the Serbs and Serbs. And, but the same situation is every another former socialist country. They don't want to say it was a class war, it was anti-fascist war. No, no, it was a war between the brothers. And it was, and they want to create a lot of conspiracy theory about it because it's very good for conspiracy theory, has a name Comintern, because in our language it's very, very good that some guys sit in some places and invented a lot of bad things against the good Serbs guys. And this narrative, you can recognize this narrative in Bulgaria, and Ukraine, and Georgia, everywhere. This is also this is important that we understand. But the point, what is the point of this resolution? In Yugoslavia, we didn't have only anti-fascist movement. Also, we had the revolution. It was a revolution created by the people. Only after the 2 years when King of Yugoslavia collapsed, people created the new state. It was a very, very important heritage of our revolution. And this revolution gave the future for the people. It was the biggest step in our history and the most progressive step in our history. And how can you explain that you privatized everything? How can you explain that people don't have a future in nowadays? And this is a reason because they want to dehumanize demonize communism, and this is the reason. And what is funny? Always they spoke in their resolution against the monism, but they brought the monism, and you can't to say something different. And we can see how they played in academia, use it for their propaganda. After that, they implemented by institution of the European Parliament, and after that, national institution and courts. And although the European Union is formally founded on the principle of the anti-fascist, in reality, there is a certain tolerance towards neo-fascist and collaborationist movement. And we can see that they, for example, in Baltic countries, they equalized Nazism and communism, they banned everything. But we know that in Baltic countries, veterans from SS division could walk there without the problems, organize manifestation, etc. And nobody speak about it, for example. But particularly in the former socialist countries that are now EU member states or candidates for membership, the process is the same. By ignorant critical analysis of history, Eastern European is witnessing the normalization and rehabilitation of individuals who were convicted of the most severe war crimes. As a result, some of the worst war criminals and their movements have suddenly been rebranded as fighters for democracy and human rights. Their crimes are relativized while they themselves are proclaimed as victims. Numerous resolutions adopted by the European institutions and implemented with the national judicial systems aim to condemn real socialism as totalitarian dictatorships and equate them with German National Socialism. Any criticism of liberalism and the EU as ideological construction can easily be labeled as support for the totalitarianism. Anti-communist resolution and declaration adopted across Europe have created the necessary conscience of the continent. Thanks to the selective interpretation of history taken out of the context, according to the logic of resolution on totalitarianism, it turns out the communists and Nazis were allies waging a joint struggle against the democratic West. This ideological offensive was intended to discredit alternatives to the neoliberal process, which nationalists have used to rehabilitate their own policy within the broader context of divided and conquer. It's a very good example in the Balkan. You could see that they, and also this is one reason how this resolution can help for the politics divided and conquer. The resolution of the Council of Europe clearly reveals a pattern through which former socialist countries of Eastern Europe have been dismantled based on the propagandist pamphletist in the academia. This pattern the claim of this pattern has been applied across the Eastern Europe. However, this leads to logical contradictions. This resolution that claimed to oppose monism, in the fact, impose monism of thought. These decisions are dominated by an anti-communist narrative that dehumanizes communists and constructs an anti-totalitarian discourse, while simultaneously tactically rehabilitating anti-communist movements in the post-socialist societies, regardless of their fascist and collaborations nature. And now we have, how can I say, we have a situation that leaders of the monarchist, the leaders of fascist collaborationists and something like this, they were victims of the communism. They fought for the human rights and democracy, but people who fought against occupation, for the better life condition, for the socialist revolution, they are criminals. And the struggle, we need to ban struggle, but we need to, on the other hand, for this argument, we need to celebrate collaborations with the Nazism. Thank you very much.